Hey there, boys and girls, and welcome to another episode of Luthorville. Well, this is it, folks. This is the last episode. Not the last episode of Luthorville, but the last episode of the process of building the house to getting it out to the property. So, this is the one that I was really freaked out about, incredibly nervous about. For the past 3 years that I have been researching this and planning this, the one thing that was a huge unknown factor was, will I get stuck in the sand? How nervous was he? Well, he was so nervous that on the 13th of May, I actually rented the biggest U-Haul trailer that I could get, simply so I could test the maneuverability out on these roads. See, I knew that obviously the trailer is not nearly as heavy and it's not nearly as long, but I knew that it would give me kind of a general idea of how a trailer was going to maneuver on these roads. See, the problem is you have absolutely nothing to gauge perspective when you're driving out in the desert. There are obviously no curbs, there are no street signs, there are no fire hydrants, so it's kind of difficult to tell, for example, the radius of a turn between two roads. So I got the U-Haul just to reassure myself and to have a little bit of a clearer idea of how tight of a turn I could make pulling a trailer. Really, it just served as a good point of reference so that I could understand that maneuverability better. Now, I did a lot of stuff to make sure that I did not get stuck in the sand. For one thing, I scouted out all of the roads, all of the potential routes to the property many times, dozens of times. I also made sure that I bought a Ram 5500 flatbed truck with four-wheel drive. The reason that I did this was because the Ram 5500 has 19-inch wheels standard instead of 17-inch like most trucks. And of course the four-wheel drive, of course the dualies, by having dualies on the back, it's more weight distribution, right? Same thing applies to the tiny house. That's one of the biggest reasons that I went with a commercial trailer from Big Tex, because I now have 8 wheels distributing the weight in the back of the trailer instead of a standard RV that might only have 4, at the most it might have 6. So all of these things were done specifically so that I would not get stuck in the sand. The funny thing is, the very first weekend that I was out here, came out here on a Saturday, the very next day, on Sunday, I was out shooting photos. I wanted to get some good pictures of the house and of the land, and a random car came driving up the road. It was a gentleman and his daughter who were looking for his other daughter, who was out here somewhere shooting a movie, and literally 4 vehicles from the film crew were stuck in sand on various roads out here in the desert. And so she called and was trying to get help to get out, and then I hopped in my truck and I went over and played the Good Samaritan and helped get this little Fiat out of... Why you were driving a Fiat on these roads, I don't know, but helped to get the little Fiat out of the sand, and everybody went along their merry way. But the point is, my fears were not unwarranted, okay? People do get stuck out here all the time. So, that is what I was really freaked out about. Like I said, that was part of all of my plans for all these years. And this is some of the footage that I took. I actually stopped the truck and put the camera on the tripod and drove past the camera a few times, so I got a few different angles. And I did it also for my own benefit. It wasn't just entertainment purposes for this YouTube channel. The other reason that I did it was because I wanted to be able to hear and see the way that the trailer was moving and flexing as it was going over some of the parts of the roads that weren't quite as smooth. I wanted to see, you know, is everything okay, right? What's the stability of the house looking like, since I can't see it from all these different angles? So that was also very beneficial and a really good exercise, and I'm glad that I took the time to do all that. So here it is. This is what it actually looked like driving Galatea Meridian, my tiny house, out to Luthorville down about 3 miles worth of Mojave desert roads. Here we go, the very first turn, coming off of the pavement onto the first of the dirt roads. I was taking it really slow. Through a lot of this, I was basically just idling. Well, that's a little bit faster, but that dip right there, back into the trailer drags a little bit. But other than that, that one was fine. That turn wasn't too bad because it's extremely wide and I knew I had a great deal of room. Now, this next one right here, this was one that I knew was going to be sketchy. The road is really tight, the corner is really tight, and I knew I wasn't going to make it if I stayed on the road. So you can see how far up I go out of frame, and there's that little green bush right there that I start to drive over, and I got to actually straighten out a little bit because I knew the rear tires were not going to clear that corner. But by swinging it really wide, I actually made it no problem. And right here you can see that those fresh tire tracks, those ones that curve from the top over to the right of the frame, those are all my tracks. And right here you can see those 2 bushes that I had to go over. So as you can tell, this is not really the road. This is a little deeper sand, and I didn't sink in hardly at all. This right here is just a straight stretch of road. This is very hard packed. This was the type of stuff that I wasn't the least bit worried about. I knew that I would be fine on these road conditions. But the entire route is not quite that good. For example, this crossroad right here, you can see I'm going ridiculously slow because the sand is very deep. There's also a lot of ups and downs, a lot of kind of ruts, because the crossroad, as it crosses over, really cuts into the road that I'm driving upon. And you can hear a lot of creaks and groans as the trailer moves over this terrain. But once again, I made it, made sure I went really slow, and didn't have any problems. As you can see, I didn't come close to sinking in. This right here is another turn that I was concerned about, but I cleared it pretty well. You can see on the far right, those are the tire marks of the trailer, and didn't hit anything. So I come walking back up the side here and brave the next section. Well, this is it. I am about 10 feet away from my property, and I'm pulling my tiny house. Here we go, crossing the threshold to make it official that I actually managed to get my tiny house onto my land out here in the middle of the desert. Now let's just hope we don't get stuck in these last few feet of sand. This entire time I was talking to my truck as if I was Timmons in Dances with Wolves. Get over a little bit, Jim. Get over a little bit.
Here a little bit, Jim. Here a little bit, Jim. Here a little bit. Here over a little bit.
Well, I was so nervous about that last turn there that I forgot to forgot to have the camera running. Let's take a walk over here, see how it looks. Oh, look at that, I made it. I didn't get stuck, didn't even come close to getting stuck. You can see here how much I sank in, not even like half an inch or so. I hit that bush there a little bit. Uh-oh, I hit a piece of wood there. Well, I ran over that, but as long as it doesn't give me a flat tire, it should be alright. I had to take it pretty wide. And look at that, I hit the corner of that bush there, but I made it, man. I made this turn. Didn't have to tear out any bushes to do it, but man, it was close. Look at that. Look at how freaking close that is. Doesn't get any closer than that. This is good. Good thing I got my commercial driver's license so that I learned how to back up a big trailer like this. So this is me backing the thing up so I can come back up this road that you see closer here in the foreground. Now, one of the things I was having difficulty with was simply figuring out my route. So that last clip that you saw where I kind of took that sharp sort of U-turn over the ground was actually between these two roads that you see splitting off into a Y. So I realized that the easiest way to do this, since some of these turns are so difficult, was to make that U-turn in there and then back the trailer up down this road and then bring it straight up the road that is now to my left relative to the cab. So that's what I did. It worked out really well, and I don't think there was a simpler way to do it. Now this is some footage of me figuring out how to actually park the trailer and trying to understand exactly where I want to stick the thing. So I end up getting out and looking around and just really trying to find the most ideal spot to put it. My initial thought was that I was actually going to just leave it parked right there on the road because, legally speaking, that road is not a road. It's not officially listed anywhere in any kind of county guidelines or anything like that. So, since that road is on my property and it's not a legal road, I could just park right there. But then I got hit with the thought of, what if somebody comes racing through the desert on a dirt bike, let's say in the middle of the night, right? And they don't see the thing and bam, they slam right into the house. That would not be good. So that was why I decided, as soon as that thought crossed my mind, I was like, yeah, I definitely should park off the road. Even though it's not technically a road, people do use it, so I needed to be careful of that. So the other thing about this trailer and the tiny house is the fact that it doesn't have leveling jacks, which means that I need to find ground that is incredibly flat, incredibly even and level, because I don't have the little hydraulics that most RV trailers have in order to balance out the trailer. Now, one other thing, and this was the last, most brutal part of getting this thing in place. It does have jacks in the front, but like I said, they're not leveling jacks, they're just jacks to support the weight. And those jacks, unfortunately, this was a big mistake that I made when I got the trailer, they are manual jacks. They are not hydraulics. So I physically have to crank the thing up and down every time I need to attach it to the truck and every time I need to detach it from the truck. This is not easy. The only consolation that I have when I'm doing it is I just picture Conan and I think of him pushing that wheel, That's kind of how I feel whenever I'm cranking that trailer up and down,
Conan, what is best in life? To crush your enemies, to see them driven before you, and to hear the lamentations of the women.
Between the time when the oceans drank Atlantis and the rise of the sons of Arius, there was an age undreamed of. And unto this, Conan, destined to bear the jeweled crown of Aquilonia upon a troubled brow. It is I, his chronicler, who alone can tell thee of his saga. Let me tell you of the days of high adventure.
So as you can see, I actually did it. I made it. Here I am, out in the middle of nowhere, just like I dreamed of being. So, you can do it too, folks. Anything you set your mind to, right? You can achieve whatever you want to accomplish, even if the thing that you want to accomplish is to spend tens of thousands of dollars when you didn't even have a job in the beginning and come live out in absolute desolation. Well, it's not absolute desolation. I mean, the place is so alive as far as I'm concerned. There's plants everywhere. I just saw some coyotes today. There's actually feral dogs that are out running around too, which I learned talking to Jen, a young girl who works over at Saddleback Butte, the state park. What else have I seen? There's tons of lizards, there's tons of mice, which I'm really concerned about not wanting to get them in my truck or in my house. Plenty of insects. It looks like the ants are done for the day. The red ants come marching out of their homes and go gathering food, and then they come back, which is the reason I have a lot of diatomaceous earth around my entire tiny house. So, my point is, I'm not rambling for no reason whatsoever. There's a point. The point is, there's a lot more to talk about with Luthorville and Galatea Meridian. Oh, there's a lizard right over there, crawling underneath one of the bushes. Anyway, sorry, where was I? Yes, there's a lot more for me to talk about. And I think that I think it's beautiful out here. Like I said, it's not desolation to me. It's absolutely teeming with life, which is life that I do not want living in my vehicles, but that's another story. So thank you. Thank you so much for coming along on this little journey, and I hope that you continue to watch and see where things go from here. I have some other project ideas that I've been kicking around in my head, and I have a lot of other video stuff that's going to be coming up. So I'm going to be shooting some of that tomorrow, I'm going to be editing some stuff tonight, and that's about it. So thank you for watching. And remember, what is it that I always say? For those of you who have watched all the other episodes, if your ambitions do not scare you, then they're not big enough.